Hi everyone, welcome to the Life House, and we're here today to introduce you to Cheryl McMillan, and we're here to hear about the beginnings with her and Jim, her husband Jim, and we're going to hear how we have come to this place of the Life House coming to be where we are today. So Cheryl, could you tell us the beginnings for you and Jim and how your lives started together?
Well, again, I was thinking about preparing for this, and I thought, how do I capsulize 50 years together? Because we were married for 48 years, and we went together for 2 years. So actually, we were 50 years together. And I guess the best way of putting it is, we were two people who loved each other and wanted to have a strong home and a strong family, and yet we were on this journey because we didn't really know how to do it. Our desire was for His ways, even if we didn't know it in our beginnings. We just knew that we wanted a relationship with each other that would be stronger than anything that we had seen modeled to us. Now, we came from homes where both of our parents would have said, yes, we believe in Jesus, but they didn't walk it. They walked more in their own strength. So that, of course, when you don't have that model to you, then there's confusion. And so I had a grandma that loved the Lord and prayed for me and prayed over me. So I had that experience. But then I also had parents who didn't walk that way. And yet they were good parents, and they did the best that they know how. And the same was with Jim's family too. But we had a mixture. We had religion, and we didn't know about relationship with the Lord as much as we needed to know.
Right.
And so that was our beginnings, and yet I'm so grateful that God hears the desires of our heart and knows our intentions. Because we had wonderful intentions, but we didn't know how to walk them out. And that gives me great hope for myself and for people that I know that have these wonderful intentions, but don't know how to find Him. Because it says that, He loved us because He loved us. So now we can love Him.
Right.
And so tasting of His love draws us. And I think we had the basis of loving each other, but wanted so much to have a model of knowing how to be better, to come up higher. And by His grace and mercy, He led us on a path where over the years, and we knew that we needed more. It didn't take me long after becoming a mom, particularly, that I knew I couldn't do this in my own strength. I wanted to be the best mom possible. I wanted to be the best wife possible. But I knew that I didn't have the goods to do that. And so that sent me on a quest and crying out, because I had a grandma that taught me how to pray. So I always prayed. From a little girl I prayed. But I never knew how to hear His voice or to have a responsive relationship with Him. All I knew was to ask and to cry out and all of that. And yet in that state, He still met me. And so, I can say that I came to salvation when I became a mom. But I was on the journey of salvation a long time before that. I happened to stand at the altar and say I do at that time. But there was a courtship that went on. And he courted me. And in Genesis it speaks of how He created the earth. And it says that He saw the darkness and He saw the void, and He spoke into that darkness. And it says that He brooded over the darkness. That's the words in the New King James. He brooded over the darkness and He commanded light there. And so here we were, and He came and He brooded over my darkness and commanded light and drew me to Himself. And so I came into that place of saying yes to Him and yielding when our kids were little.
Right.
I had David, and I walked out my first year or two with just being a new mom and recognizing, wow, I'm so over my head. And how many people that step into that role say, wow, am I over my head?
Yeah.
But when I was crying out, I wanted to be better. I wanted to do the right thing. And then he started putting things in my path, and I wound up coming to the Lord by reading Christian books. That was the way that I came. And I was searching, how to be a good mom. And actually it was James Dobson's books that actually caused me to say yes and bow my knee and say, I need you, Jesus. And that was my beginning. And then Jim came probably about 3.5 years later. He watched my life, and he watched the fact that I was coming to the Lord, and my life was changing. I was becoming more confident because I had the Holy Spirit in me. And he liked everything that he saw,
Right.
but he said, it's good for you. I don't need that, but it's good that you found this.
Right.
But it took him 3.5 years later to find out, hey, I need this God in this way too.
Right.
So he yielded to the Lord. And so that became our journey, and we wound up, giving ourselves to the church, to our church life. We wound up getting involved in different aspects of church life. And our main desire was for relationship with God, first of all, but then also to grow our relationship with each other, and how to build a home where relationship was central in our family. And so that was a big journey, and we made a lot of mistakes, but God met us and heard the cry of our heart. And one of the things that was really important to us is that we had our home open to others. That whatever we were learning in God, we wanted to share with others. So our home became a place where we had Bible studies. We had a lot of people come that were working through things, and we would, come around the Word because we were learning the Word and we were putting our hearts there. And so lots of people would come, and we kind of developed this open door policy where people just came and found more of Jesus.
Right.
And we lived our life with lots of ups and downs. I mean, if we live in this world, we know we're going to have times when we're going to be challenged.
Right.
Our faith is going to be challenged, and we certainly walked that road. We had lots of losses. We had lots of wonderful things, but we had lots of losses. We've got 3 grandchildren in heaven, so that's a whole other story. Right. And so when people go home to heaven, there's that whole thing of having to work things out in our own hearts for, Lord, help us to understand that that's where our home is. Kingdom, our kingdom is a kingdom that is on the other side too. It's not like just this world, right? And so God's been so gracious to take us on this journey, and I want to kind of capsulize it, and it's hard to capsulize because there's just so many stories and so many things of what God's done in our life. But the one thing that I think was really central to Lifehouse starting was the fact that we had this group of people that wanted to learn from Jim and I, wanted to learn the qualities of the Lord that we had learned to rely on. And so they came to us and they said, would you come and teach a Bible study? And we had prayed about it, and we said, yes, I think that we can do. So we had set a date for January, and we were all ready to go into this new study. We had been involved in quite a number of studies before. And then in December, Jim went home to heaven very suddenly. He wasn't sick. He wasn't in any place of weakness. And we were living our life just as normally as can be. And we went to bed. We went to bed one night, and he never woke up. And so my life went from my life with Jim and all the fullness of that to a place of he's not in my life anymore, and how do I do this? But thankfully, because we had developed a real strong relationship with the Lord, I got to discover how much God was there for all of us. Not only for myself, but for my 3 sons and their families, and for all the friendships, because we had so many people around us that loved him too. And he was a mentor to a number of people. I didn't even realize how much he was to other people until he went home. And at his memorial, there was over 700 people that came. And he was a quiet man, but a man with a lot of strength in God. And he shared the Lord in so many practical ways just by the way that he lived his life. And I had the privilege, the awesome privilege, of doing life with him for all these years.
I think one of the things I wanted to say about you, talking about that, about Jim, is how he lived in that hidden life. And that's one of the things that's was such a precious thing on who he was in that. And it wasn't about the fanfare, but it was that hidden life and how precious that was, how he walked that way.
Yes. He was a wonderful example of how to walk that behind closed door walk. And one of the prayers that we often prayed was, Lord, may we be more behind closed doors than what anybody ever sees. And I truly got to see him walk that way. He was just quietly cared for people. And I had so many stories of people coming and saying what he had done and how he had reached out and how he had listened. And I got the privilege of living with him every day and him treating me that way. And so I have so much to be grateful for. So when he went home, we were just surrounded with love and care because of the community that we lived in. I had someone come to me and say, actually was in the line the day of the memorial, and I said, I'm so grateful for my friends and my family. And this person said, well, it's all well and good now, but in a few months those people will go away and you'll have to learn how to live on your own. And I said back, no, it won't be like that, because I know that the relationships that we have are in God, and they are strong and they go on for eternity. So I won't receive that. I said in my heart, I won't receive that. I didn't say it out loud, but at the same time, there were so many times when we have to hear things and know to let them fall to the ground, because they don't have any eternal value. And so it was really a privilege. And then when this group of people came in and had asked us to do Bible study, I just thought, well, that's not going to happen now. But they came back to me in the spring and said, Cheryl, would you consider still coming and leading us, because you still carry all that anointing together as a couple, and you can teach us. And so would you consider? So when I went and prayed about it, I felt the nudge from the Lord to say, I want you to do this. And yet in the natural, it scared me. And so I stepped out, and we started in the fall, and it was tough in the first couple of studies that we did. I cried all the way home, missing him so much, and thinking, God, I don't know if I can do this. And I kept feeling the nudge, no, you can do it, keep going. And the most wonderful thing happened. As I kept going, not only did I find out I could do it, but the people that I was going and sharing with that were so precious to me became such a comfort, and they became a strength. And we met every second Saturday, so every second weekend I had a plan, and I had something to look forward to. And they became even more like my spiritual family, but so close and so in a place of trust, and that I could share my heart. Because again, Jim and I walked a walk where we shared everything together. We experienced a oneness that I don't think not a lot of couples get to taste of. We knew what it was like to walk in oneness together, and to be able to not have that anymore, not have a place where I could share my heart. And yet this group became that for me. Whereas I was able to come in, and some days I needed to share my heart. I needed to ask for some direction, or what do you think about this, you know? And yet I felt so safe with this group of people. I must say at this time though too, that my family have just been my absolute rock. I have the most wonderful sons and daughter-in-laws and grandchildren that you could ever ask for. And they surrounded me and loved me and took up and provided strength for me. So I can't say enough about just what God has supplied.
Absolutely.
But again, Jim and I had the privilege of bringing relationship to them, and out of that we reproduce after our own kind, and so we got to reproduce these things. And I think that's what has happened with Lifehouse, because what happened from that group of that Bible study, we did it, and they felt, let's open it up wider, because more people need to learn about what it means to walk in relationship with the Lord in a face-to-face beautiful thing in the secret place together. So what happened was, okay, they said, we'll look for a venue, we'll get a venue and see where this goes. And so I thought, okay, you know, we'll open it up a little more. There'll probably maybe 25 people or whatever. And they found a venue, and we put the word out, and the only stipulation I had was that I didn't want it on social media, I didn't want it advertised, I didn't want any of that. I just wanted it to be out of relationship, just the way that Jim and I walked. And so what happened was, they, you know, put out the word to different ones saying, you know, Cheryl's going to come and lead the Bible study, and if you want to come, and the word went out. And the first night that we met, 75 people showed up. So that was the beginning of what we now know of Lifehouse. Because at the time we just thought, okay, we're going to do this study, we're going to open it up further. And now what's happened in that is, after a couple of years, we've recognized that God's doing something, and He continued to bring a lot of people to the study. We've had opportunity to meet and share and pray with people, and it's become a family. We call it the Lifehouse family, because God has just started a support system where we come around the Word and we come around His presence. And now we've evolved to the place where God's saying, okay, because of COVID and because we can't meet physically anymore, that we feel led to continue with the Bible study, still have the Bible study format, but have it on YouTube.
Right.
So this is kind of the new venture. We step out with fear and trembling, you know, but again, we trust that God wants us to just share all the life lessons and all the things that we've learned about His character. Because the bottom line is, we reproduce after our own kind. And to the degree that we learn His ways and we learn His character, is the way that we're going to be able to grow and give that to other people.
Right.
So that's kind of in a nutshell what is happening. And so we're going to begin. We're going to just have that Bible study format, and trust that people will tune in and join us on the journey of learning His ways.
Yes. And we're so excited too that as we come on YouTube, and we're going to be having this venue now in this context to do this, that there's going to be more and more of that expansion on the basis of relationship. That we're those people we hold in our hearts, that we so would love for them to have opportunity. This opportunity has come in this context now through this. So we're so excited that we're going to be having you teaching, and there will be a company of us that will be a part of this, and in the next while we'll be hearing about from them and how they have become involved and a part of this too, because there's a company of people who are heading this up and leading this together. So. And
I'm so incredibly grateful for the way that God put this together, because it's certainly been His hand. It's not anything that we have gone and tried to create. It's been something that's unfolded out of the relationships that we have and the hunger that we have for God together. that's kind of the basis of it. You know, one of my sons said something very wise and said, you know, in the world, what happens is if you have an idea, then you get this idea and then you have to go sell it. You have to go market it and brand it and do all these things. And yet, when it's kingdom, the kingdom comes and he's the one drawing. And this is what this has happened. It's like he's drawing people to himself and we're just part of the journey. Yeah. And we didn't have to sell anything other than to say, come and learn about Jesus. Come and learn how amazing he is and how he can change your life, and that you can have a life that goes on for eternity because you said yes to him. That's basically what's happened here, and we have not gone out and tried to sell anything other than to issue the call and say, come. And that's what Jesus did in the beginning. He said, come. And again, when we step into that come, our life changes forever. Right. And so we want to bring people more into that place of just hearing his voice, knowing how to discern his voice, and be able to hear that word come. Right. And when we respond to that, there's going to be some beautiful things that happen for all of us as we're on this journey together. But I want to say I'm so grateful for the people that have said yes to him and said yes to Lifehouse, because we have a company of people that are so in love with Jesus and wanting to share his goodness with other people. And so what a privilege to be able to do life together and to be able to share with those that are going to tune in.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we look forward to all that's to come.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.